Hello and welcome to another special episode on the Joe Maxwell Show. I am your host, Joe Maxwell. Today I've got two lovely ladies, colourful ladies actually, not just lovely ladies, and I'll call them smart ladies. You know, one of those ladies that are able to kind of juggle multiple hats together. And today we're going to be discussing something very interesting, and it's all about the things that no one really tells you about being a mom. Today I'm joined by Falake Shibio-Timon and Buki Kadiri, and we are about to chat this topic up. Right, ladies? Welcome, ladies. Thanks for joining me on set today. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to ask you guys really is, so let's talk about it. So when you think about the things no one ever told you or never told you as a mom, what comes to mind? Let me start with you, Buki.
That is such a big question. Being a mom is a big job, and being a wife is another. I'm going to concentrate on being a mom. So many things no one told me. No one told me that I was going to give up certain things in life, not permanently, but temporarily, i.e. having my me time, i.e. sleeping through the nights. With a baby, you can't sleep through the nights. So many things like homework, chores around the children, school runs, activities, you're going back and forth. This all impacts in motherhood. So there's so many things that no one would tell you.
And you're still finding out anyway.
Yes, I am still finding out, and it's a struggle, I must say. Putting it all together, juggling it all together, I think it's really the strength of God, really.
But surely there are some areas of being a mom that is not as fancy.
No.
It's not pretty. It's a bit stressful that you find out and you go, I wish somebody told me about this. I wish somebody told me that I had to clean the poop. I wish somebody told me I had to do homework.
Yeah.
I wish somebody told me, things are this difficult. For like, what comes to mind?
I write several blogs on this subject, and when I became a mom, I had this kind of expectation of just this perfect motherhood, that your kids will actually listen to
Perfect
you.
motherhood,
I think the biggest thing for me is actually the fact that you really have to repeat yourself so many times before you can actually make your kids do what you want them to do, what they're meant to be doing. And the fact that, because you kind of expect that you bring a baby home and they'll just start sleeping through the night within the first 3 months. Actually, very unlikely.
Desirable, right?
That rarely happens,
Yeah.
So I think those were some of the things. And you expect that a child should just be able to eat what you give to them. But you find that you have to maybe in some cases prepare 4 different meals before you can get them to eat. So I think it's just all these little things. And you don't know the fact that before you can decide on what school to send your children to, the amount of research and effort that goes into, going to those open days, speaking to the teacher, speaking to other parents. There's just so much involved that people on the outside will probably not see, because these are the behind the scenes of motherhood that no one tells you about.
It's interesting that you said people wouldn't see. Those are the behind the scenes. Because I think even as children growing up, being raised in a family with parents, mother and father, there's a lot of these things we didn't see. I think as parents or as mothers or as parents, we do very well at masking things up and making things look as though they're so beautiful, right? So we'll come back to that, because I think, if we kind of go into that straight away, we're literally going to drown in all that conversation, because that is the crux of today's topic. So Buki, I'm going to pass over to you now. Do you think it's possible to build a career as a mom? Now, I want you guys to think about, because I'm going to come to you, Falake. I want you guys to think about it very well, because I have my views, but I'd like to hear from you guys. Do you think it's feasible, it's possible to build a successful career, I add to it, as a mother?
Right. I think it's possible, but you then have to balance it, because being a mom is a job
in itself. Absolutely.
Yes. So you have to strategize on the balance. Being successful, yes, that's what we all aim to do, but yes, I think it's possible. It's going to be a struggle. You're going to have to give up some things. You're going to have a routine in place. You're going to have strategies on how it's going to work.
So what sort of strategies are we talking about?
Well,
Or what sort of strategies have you implemented?
Okay, for me,
you need to help us, right?
yes, of
Okay, because
course.
some of us are really drowning. I, for one, I'm drowning.
To tell you, I'm drowning as well, but it's possible.
Okay.
So that your question is it possible? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but it comes with the challenges and the struggles. So yes, strategies like routine, have a routine in place, and have work-life balance. I work 3 days a week. I don't work 5 days. And that's how I'm able to have a job, a business, and mother 3 children.
Okay. I mean, you're slaying too, girl. Okay. I mean, I don't know if you guys can see. She looks good. So maybe it's a 3 out of 5 days working. I may need to do one of those.
However, saying that, I dedicate 2 days to my business. So I am working full week. However, it's not as stressful as the first 3 days. So the first 3 days I'm in the office, and that's my 9 to 5. So with my business, I have to take it very important as well and do what I have to do. However, I still have these children 7 days a week.
I love that. These children, like my life story.
So it is possible, but you have to kind of balance it. I mean, I've met moms that they work 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. They still have a business. In fact, sometimes 2 businesses, and they still have 3, 4 children. So yes, it's possible, but it's how you strategize, how you put things in place, how you make it balanced for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right. You're right to some extent. I just want to see how what your strategy is like. For like, I'm just going to ask you a different question, right? And it's all about the things that we give up as a mother, right? So as a mother, it almost feels as though the moment we have these children, you give up everything, right?
Yes.
So what are the sort of things that you've given up as a mother?
So, I mean, when you become a mom, no doubt, something always has to give because, you have this life that you have to nurture that you're 100% responsible for. So I think the immediate things that comes to mind is, even your ambitions, for example. So, for example, I kind of thought I would already be a vice president in my workplace already by now. But it was something that just couldn't happen just because I couldn't dedicate as much time compared to my counterpart. And to be fair, if I had a business, I probably want to, push people that are committing more time into, the strategy and just pushing, the project. So I think the first thing for someone that is a career woman, you probably have to give up some aspect of your ambition. I think for me, I don't really feel bad about that because it was something I kind of opted to do. So just like, Bookie, I chose to work 4 days a week, just to be able to find that balance. And the other thing is things around self-care. So I was someone that on a Saturday, I'll probably spend like half of the day at the hair salon, getting my hair done, getting my nails done. But with 2 kids in tow, we have to take them to swimming lessons and football classes. I have to find alternatives for self-care. So before I had kids, for example, I really love to travel. Weekends, I could spend my weekend going to, Rome to France, getting those budget, tickets. But these are things I can't readily do anymore since, I'm now a mom.
So technically, these children take our life, literally take everything. Because, I love how you've gone into the things that you'd normally do versus the things you can't do anymore. And it's not fair. I sort of feel like it's not fair because talking about your ambition, right? I mean, I look at it and I'm thinking in another 10, 15 years, children will be, they'll be older, they'll move on. And then if your career is something that you've always wanted to do, you've not been able to build it to where you want to build it. And what happens to that? I don't know whether the men actually think about things like this or whether or not they worry about the things we worry about. So do we think men have it easy?
I don't think so. That's my perspective. Okay. I'm grateful to have a supporting husband and I am thankful for that. However, I know not all women have it easy. I'm not saying I have it easy, but I have a supporting husband. So we decide to share the chores around the kids. We have a routine in place. So i.e. in the morning, getting them up, getting them to school. I take responsibility for that. But then in the evening, after school, say homework, reading time, sorting them out, nighttime routine, Dad does that.
You see, did I not tell you she had everything all mapped out before? Now, guys, behind the scene, I did say she had everything all mapped. So how you're able to get that, you need to give me some of those juice, okay? because I think this is ideally where most marriages need to get into, where, responsibility.
We didn't start like that. We had to learn. Okay. So I've been married coming up to 12 years. So I can tell you the first half of the years I've been married is not the same as today. So I think...
Praise the Lord, hallelujah.
So I think growing as well and trying to understand each other, and also communication is very key. If you communicate with your partner, with your husband, with your spouse to say, I am struggling, okay, can you help? I think that goes a long way.
Provided the partner does listen and is empathetic as well, right?
I think most men will, but I think the issue generally is the communication. Sometimes as women, we feel we can do it all. We can't do it all.
Absolutely.
We need to communicate that, look, I'm drowning here, can you help? I mean, a reasonable husband, a reasonable man would not like his spouse, his wife,
to drown.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think, most of the time, yes. I mean, you get the odd ones that really will not, but I think communicating that would help. So I don't think it has it easy, to be honest. I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Right, I think let's twist just a little bit so we don't go over saying the same thing. Do you think the society has placed on so much responsibility on us? So we kind of live a stereotypical life right now where a lot of things has been passed down to us as women. So by default, it's a woman's responsibility to cook. It's a woman's responsibility to make sure, the child is, whatever it is, to get them ready for school and all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think that we are conforming to societal expectation? And if yes or no, what do you think the impact is on us as mothers?
So, I mean, in terms of just, I'm from an African, origin, and what is quite common is you see like raising boys and girls, they raise them quite differently, don't they? Where the girls, have to like go to the kitchen to do chores, help with the cooking, but the boys might be, in the playing games in the living room, watching TV. I mean, that's how many of our husbands and fathers were raised. So I feel like that was kind of how they were raised. So that's what they were kind of used to. But our generation, we are kind of changing, the way things have been done. And I must say we've made massive progress compared to how we used to be for our mothers and our grandmothers. So in terms of the pressure, so women growing up, expecting or believing that their worth is in looking after the home, caring for the children, and just keeping everything together. But the men are kind of raised to either be breadwinners or just follow their own individual ambitions. So I think that kind of impacts on us as mothers, because many of these men that were raised in that way were not raised to, being hands-on, being able to, help with, changing the nappy, being able to help with getting the kids ready to school. And for me, I'm very lucky because my husband is extremely supportive, because he grew up in a really large family where, everyone supported each other. So I would say I'm not one of those. I'm an exception to that.
I think both of you are
I see so many
exceptional women,
so many friends and even colleagues, even those from other heritage, like Indian heritage, where the women spend 4 hours cooking all these meals and the men are there watching football and doing other things. So that impacts on the well-being on us as mothers.
So what can we do? What do you think we can do as mothers? It's Mother's Day week, so hey, we need to start learning some things now.
I think what you're doing with your show, Joe Maxwell show, is a really important, initiative where you're able to showcase examples of like good examples, positive role models for people to see that this is an example of, of how men can be supportive, how women can be able to, in quote, have it to a large extent with supportive spouses. So I think we just need to keep talking about this. And where we see like our brothers, like for me, I have a brother who is married. So if I see cases where he's not supporting his wife, I feel like I should be the one calling that out to say, can you support your wife a bit more? Your wife appears to be drowning. So if we as women, we are talking to our brothers, if the mothers are bringing up their sons. Like I've got 2 sons and they're not going to have it easy. They're going to be cooking with me in the kitchen. I'm not going to leave them to be watching football while I'm cooking. Absolutely. So I feel like we raising boys have to be very mindful of what we are passing on to the next generation. So I feel like we need to demand for this help, obviously in a really loving and in a positive way, because many of these men, if you check them, there are very few men that actually hate their children. So if you're able to communicate your needs to them to a large extent, you'll be able to get the outcome that you want.
That's wisdom right there, Falakemi. Thanks for sharing that. That's absolutely fantastic, and thanks so much. I've got one question for you guys, though. It's a little bit kind of, I'll say, out of scope of this conversation, because whilst you were talking, it kind of took me somewhere else. And the question is, you know, being a mom, how do you deal with, I mean, obviously the children are growing up now. How do you deal with things like children talking back, responding, you know, growing up, talking back wasn't even a word. You know, it wasn't even, your parents wouldn't even tell you not to talk back because it would never even happen for them to tell you not to do it. But nowadays, there's a lot of freedom of speech, and I noticed that children are starting to, children do it a whole lot. Now, they don't do it with their dads. I have noticed the pattern. And with my children, they talk back at me very easily, and I have to correct them.
Mine.
But they've never for once, talked back to it. And I've noticed that with a lot of my friends and relationships and friendships as well. How do you guys cope with? Because some moms find it's a struggle. They find it hard to. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to be the African mom. We want, you kind of want to have a good balanced relationship. You want them to be able to talk. You want them to be able to express themselves. So telling them to keep quiet is stopping them from having a freedom of speech. But at the same time, you want to balance things. You just don't want them talking about how. Okay, I'm going to pass it back.
It's interesting because the society we live in, there's a lot about freedom of speech and children talking back, and that's because they practicalize it even in school. So when they come home to parents, moms and dads, they tend to do the same. I'm a disciplinarian. I have been told. So the way I do it is you can talk back, but be careful what you say. I educate them, and I tell my husband to do the same. You have to educate them. They can't be talking back. They can't be struggling with us as parents. Like I said, we use a point system in my house. So if you get the most minus points, you don't get your treat at the weekend. Not that I want to deprive them of certain things, but I want them to learn. And that's how to educate them. As a mother, I am struggling already. Then having a child that would talk back or would, portray characteristics of being unruly is unacceptable in my books. In my house, I think my husband is a softie. So they'll probably talk back more to him than to me. They know when they come to me, if the answer is no, they try to sweet talk me into saying yes to certain things, but no. You're not going to get it easy. If I'm meant to say yes, I'll say yes. If I'm meant to say no, I'm going to say no.
So you do have the point. You have the point system, and you're disciplinarian. So for you, you've kind of managed the talk back system, and it's not so bad. Falakemi, how have you been able to?
So I think for me, because I've got two really strong and active boys, and I think I'm kind of the opposite in the sense that my boys tend to listen more to my husband, and I just see mommy as that person that she has to repeat herself 10 times. So I think for me, one thing that helps me is the fact that for my boys, for example, the same thing. I really educate them that, when you talk back to mommy is not happy. Like, that doesn't make me feel good. When you talk back to mom, when you don't listen to me. And when it gets to the point where they've actually done something that I need to discipline them, it might be a timeout where, I send them to their bed, or, I take out all the TVs. They don't have TV time altogether. So I have to take those actions just for them to see the impact of their behavior. And it's even things like even the language, like my 3-year-old, like I'm telling him, can you tidy up? And it's like, mommy, what the heck? I'm like, where did I even come from? Like my 3-year-old, I'm like, where did I even come from? And and many of these things they even watch, like they have some of these kids program. There's one called Horrid Henry, where the child is so unruly, he talks back at his parents, is so rude. And those are the things that we should really try to find where the kids are getting some of these behaviors from. Because I don't think any child naturally has those behaviors in them. But I feel like boys are quite boisterous to a large extent, because my 6-year always feels he has to be teaching me something. He's saying, oh, mommy, do you know that a woman that has lost her husband is a widow? I'm like, thanks for thanks for letting me know. So I feel like boys have like a different personality that you really have to manage. So you have to really guide what they have access to in terms of TV, in terms of who they're in contact with, because you don't want them to pick bad language, like from, TV, from people around them. So you really have to safeguard what they have access to. And, I think you can only do your best as a parent and just keep educating them, because they're still so young. It's a constant journey. You have to keep reminding them, keep correcting them, keep disciplining them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ladies. That is a wealth of knowledge. As a mother, sitting here and just listening to you guys, I think you guys have shared some nuggets that hopefully our viewers at home been able to pick a couple of things, and hopefully you can learn from the points that Buki has told us about, and you can learn about taking things away from the kids to help you. But don't forget that you are not alone. If you're ever thinking that you're alone and you're drowning, we are all drowning together, right? Women support women, and I can tell you for a fact that you are not alone. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining us today. I hope you had a great time as much as I did.
Yes,
thank you
absolutely.
So much. And that's it for us on today's episode. Until next time, if you do have any questions, please email us at info@joemaxwellshow.com. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media handles at Joe Maxwell Show. And that's it for me for today. Happy Mother's Day to all the beautiful moms out there, for all the moms that are drowning, for all the moms that are struggling. Happy Mother's Day. You're doing a fantastic job. Until next time, have a good one. If you have found any of our interviews or videos interesting and engaging, click the subscribe button and also turn on your notification just to make sure you never miss a thing.